Hey guys, welcome back to another video or another audio. Today I wanted to talk about boundaries, and this isn't just boundaries in relationships or boundaries in the workplace, but this is just boundaries in your life in general. When God has called you to something, there are going to be a lot of people who do not agree with it. There are going to be a lot of people who don't see your vision, who don't see God's plan for your life, and there 1,000,000% is going to be a bunch of people who do not understand the path that you are taking. And let me tell you, it is not their job to understand. It is your job to understand and carry your calling well. And so I have been clashing heads. I'm going to be vulnerable here. I have been clashing heads with family members, clashing because they do not understand my life. They don't understand God's purpose for me. And specifically because I'm very young, they don't understand the maturity that God has given me from the very beginning. And so all my life, I've been a people pleaser. I've been raised to be the golden child. I'm the first daughter. So I've been raised to be the obedient daughter. And all my life, it's been that. And so now that I've been baptized and God is like fully calling me out of my shell and putting me in a whole new place, it has been very difficult to step out into the fullness of who I am. It has been very difficult to try again. It has been very difficult to show up as this person that nobody around me has ever known. And it's especially hard for me to even show up as this person for myself. And it doesn't help that the people around me don't understand, nor do they support who God is calling me to be. And I remember I saw this TikTok, and this guy was talking about how the Bible does tell us to honor our parents, but we are not to honor our parents if they're doing things that dishonor God. We are not to honor our parents if they're doing things that go against God's will. And that a lot of parents take that verse and, they say honor your parents, but God does not accept sin. God does not approve of sin. And so if your parent or your family member or your close friend or your partner is doing something to stop God's will in your life, or if they're actively opposing God's will in your life, there is no honor in that. Because before we honor our parents, we honor God. Before we honor our parents, we're obedient to God. Before we honor our parents, we are God's child. Because if it wasn't for God knitting us together in our mother's womb, we wouldn't be here. And so yes, God used our parents as vessels to make us. God is the ultimate creator. They are the source, He is the resource. And so if your parent or if your family member or if your people in your school or colleagues or whatever, if they're doing things against God's will, you are not obligated to sit there and take it. And that's something that I've been having to learn and teach myself, and it is so completely difficult, especially because I grew up as a golden child. All I've ever wanted to do was please my parents. But right now I'm coming to the realization that no matter what I do, it is never going to be good enough for them unless I'm doing exactly what they want. And unfortunately for them, fortunately for me, God's calling over my life does not require me to do exactly what my parents want. It's a completely different path. My parents want doctors, nurses. God is calling me to be a social worker. And the first thing my parents think about is money. I remember I was telling my dad, I want to, kind of live on my own, and I want to kind of experience life on my own. And my dad told me, it's not about what you want. It's about money and how much it's going to cost. And that just rubbed me the wrong way, because I was like, it is about living the life that I want to live. It is about living the life that I deserve. It is about enjoying life. Life is not here for me to be stuck in the world cycle. If you are a Christian and if you are a child of God, you do not need to be afraid of the world. You do not need to be a slave to the world's way of doing things. Hustle, no rest. God gave us Sabbath day, which is Saturday. And that day we're supposed to rest and thank the Lord for everything we have. And I honor the Sabbath. I don't work at all. No matter what happens, I trust and I understand that God is going to take care of me. So I don't work at all. And a lot of people don't understand that, and a lot of people don't follow that. And so when my dad said that, I said, no, it's not about the money, because I checked my financial aid account, guys. I randomly one day checked my financial aid account, right? I applied to multiple scholarships. I haven't heard anything back. I won $8,500 in scholarships. And you're telling me that it's about the money and it's not about me deserving a good life? God said, I got that covered. He said, I want you to enjoy this life. I want you to live abundantly. And as long as you're following my will and being obedient and showing up and doing the best you can every single day, I will never leave you. Even when we're not doing what God wants, He will never leave us. He promises to stick with us till the end. And that's written in John. And so I remember when my dad said that, I started freaking out because I'm like, I'm so afraid that if I step out and if I live this life that God wants me to live, my parents will reject me. I'm afraid that I'm going to lose any type of support I have from them. And I don't have mental support or emotional support from my parents, but I do have physical support from them. And they're paying, a huge chunk of my tuition. And so it's really hard for me to be like, yeah, I'm gonna disobey you guys, because I'm so afraid of being rejected by them. And that comes from them raising a child who constantly needed approval. And so God's telling me right now, you got baptized and you told me that you don't want to do life with anybody else. And so now you have to show me that you don't want to do life with anybody else. I know it is hard. I know you are not used to doing things without your parents' approval. And I know this is the first time you're making big decisions for yourself, but you need to learn to trust yourself. And that's a word for somebody. You need to learn to trust yourself. I made a decision to get baptized and it was the right decision. I made a decision to apply for a scholarship and it was the right decision. I made a decision to cut people off and it was the right decision. God said to me, you can trust yourself. And if you can trust yourself, you can trust the person who created you, which is me. And so when I checked that financial aid account, I saw that God said, maybe your parents don't want you to live in the residence that you want to live in, but I've provided you enough money in your scholarships to pay for your whole residence for the first year. And that's a God thing. Nobody else did that but God. That is a God thing. My whole residence is paid off in scholarships. So what my dad was complaining about and what my dad was installing fear in me about, I trusted in the Lord, and I randomly checked my financial aid account and I have almost $10,000, which covers my full residence fee and my meal plan. So this is a reminder to somebody to set those boundaries and trust God. If you don't have your family, if you don't have friends, if you don't have any support whatsoever, you do have God, and you need to trust Him. Because He's always on time and He never fails. And as long as you put your trust in Him, He will never have you sleeping on the floor. Unless it's a lesson He needs to teach you. He will never have you going hungry. Never. You will always be taken care of because He is the perfect Father.